सिया राम। सिया राम, राम सिया राम, जय जय राम 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 सिया राम।
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Together we chant verses 1 to 10, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14.
अथ चतुर्दशोऽध्यायः। श्रीभगवानुवाच परं भूयः प्रवक्ष्यामि ज्ञानानां ज्ञानमुत्तमम् यज्ञात्वा मुनयः सर्वे परां सिद्धिमितो गताः। इदं ज्ञानमुपाश्रित्य मम साधर्म्यमागताः। सर्गेऽपि नोपजायन्ते प्रलये न व्यथन्ति च। मम योनिर्महद्ब्रह्म तस्मिन् गर्भं दधाम्यहम्। सम्भवः सर्वभूतानां ततो भवति भारत सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय मूर्तयः सम्भवन्ति याः तासां ब्रह्म महद्योनिः अहं बीजप्रदः पिता सत्त्वं रजस्तम इति गुणाः प्रकृतिसम्भवाः निबध्नन्ति महाबाहो देहे देहिनमव्ययम् तत्र सत्त्वं निर्मलत्वात् प्रकाशकमनामयम् सुखसङ्गेन बध्नाति ज्ञानसङ्गेन चानघ रजो रागात्मकं विद्धि तृष्णासङ्गसमुद्भवम् तन्निबध्नाति कौन्तेय कर्मसङ्गेन देहिनम् तमस्त्वज्ञानजं विद्धि मोहनं सर्वदेहिनाम् प्रमादालस्य निद्राभिः तन्निबध्नाति भारत सत्त्वं सुखे सञ्जयति रजः कर्मणि भारत ज्ञानमावृत्य तु तमः प्रमादे सञ्जयत्युत रजस्तमश्चाभिभूय सत्त्वं भवति भारत रजः सत्त्वं तमश्चैव तमः सत्त्वं रजस्तथा
In the previous verse, that is verse 9, we discussed the summary of what he has said so far, how tattva attaches to happiness. So, knowledge and happiness is a trademark of sattva. People do classes on clearer thinking, and that is a good thing. I mean, we also do that. But the fact of the matter is that unless the sattva is there, clear thinking is not going to be possible. You have a little range, you can increase that range a little. But unless sattva is engaged, clear thinking becomes impossible. It is a direct correlation. It is not like, we can just pick everybody up and then give them classes on clearer thinking and then they will all think clearly. It doesn't work like that. The classes on clearer thinking will confuse them further because they can't relate. So it will seem very confusing. So unless sattva is engaged, clarity of thought cannot come. Similarly, happiness. To the extent that there is sattva, there is happiness. Happiness which is yours, not happiness which is gifted to you by other people. These gifts that other people do to us are theirs, not ours. So they can take it back whenever they want. So sattva makes you happy, makes you clear. If this is missing, then happiness and clarity will be a ayaram gayaram. Come and go, come and go, come and go. Then raja karmani. Raja attaches to action. Now, this is confusing for many people because they think activity is rajas. Activity is not rajas. Desire-ridden activity. activity that's making you rush here and there, give you stress, give you competition, give you all like a bee buzzing, it's going on. That is rajas. And tamas is pramade. It attaches to pramada, the worst of the lot, to be heedless, to not care, to be negligent. Now, unfortunately, many people misunderstand heedlessness to be sattva. Because sattva is what? You don't care about the fruit. What is pramada? Heedlessness. You don't care about the fruit. So people are like, oh, okay, I'm a very sattvic person. I don't care what's going to happen. That's not what it means. Heedlessness and sattva are two opposite things. And unfortunately, tamas is always mimicking sattva. Sattva is happy, calm, peaceful. Tamas is happy, calm, peaceful. But what is the difference? Sattva has happiness which is permanent. And tamas has happiness which comes out of complacency, of fixed contentment. Sattva can see the problems and stay happy. Tamas cannot see the problem and therefore is happy. The difference between, let's say a person has tuberculosis. Okay, he gets terrible tuberculosis or cancer or anything, gets a terrible illness. So a rajasic person gets all stressed and worked up about it. A sattvic person, knowing the situation, manages to maintain an unaffected calm. And tamas, what happens in tamas?
Does not see and remains calm.
Is
Sorry?
bothered.
Does
Oblivious.
not see the problem.
He doesn't know he has tuberculosis. That is why he is so calm. Just his ignorance, total ignorance. Doesn't know. And if he knows I have tuberculosis, he doesn't understand what that thing means. That tuberculosis kuch hoga cheez. Negligence, heedlessness. So it is not so the rajasic guy will hear he's got cancer or tuberculosis or something, and he starts running and going from doctor to doctor and getting himself and everybody else all worked up. What will the sattvic person do? The sattvic person will also go from doctor to doctor, try to understand what is going on and go about it in a systematic and methodical manner without getting all upset about it. Now, if I have a physical body, this body will get diseased every now and then. I have to deal with it as best I can. I just say, oh my God, you know what happened to me? And तामसिक को उसको बेचारे को पता ही नहीं है कि क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे. Right? So tamas pretends to be sattva. It mimics sattva. And 9 out of 10 times when we believe we are being sattvic, we are being tamasic. We have to be very careful about this thing. So then, tamas is heedlessness, not being bothered. And I know a man, he was approaching retirement. He was already 60. And he told me that he has no savings. He's giving me blood pressure, but he's not getting blood pressure himself. How can you come to 60 and have no savings? What were you thinking you're doing? The sattvic person will have understood savings are required when they are 5 years old and have done it. The tamasic person has come to 60 and thinking, kuch karenge. Kuch karenge? Are you mad? And the rajasic person has been obsessed with money all his life. We need so many things to be done now. This is almost like a checklist. You have to do X, Y, and Z. Do your checklist. What's the big deal? So sattva is happy, is clear. Rajas is excited and running around because of that excitement. And tamasic is heedless, out of ignorance. So we are all tamasic because we are heedless about reaching the self. In fact, we are very casual about it. We say, oh, no, that is too far, that I can't do. We're quite casual about it. We don't understand that that is the single most important thing for us to do. There is nothing else here. And having understood that and understood that it's difficult, therefore I'm thinking, okay, how much can I do? Which is very different from, okay, forget about the self. Let me tell me how to do my relationship properly. We are heedless. We are heedless about it. So when we are ignorant and therefore heedless, that is called tamas. Okay, this is what he has said so. Right now, let us go to the 10th verse. Right? Rajastamascha Sattvam bhavati bharata Rajasatvam tamaschaiva Tamasatvam rajastatha Rajastamascha Sattvam bhavati bharata Rajasatvam tamaschaiva Tamasatvam rajastatha Rajah Tamaha cha abhibhuyah Sattvam. Sattvam predominates over Rajas and Tamas. O Bharata, O Arjuna. Raja Sattvam Tamas Chaiva. Rajas Abhibhuya is understood. Sattvam Tamas Chaiva. And then third one, Tamaha Sattvam Rajastatha. And then Tamas over Sattvam and Rajas. In simple words, in most of us, or at any given point, one quality, either Tamas or Rajas or Sattva, predominates over the other two. All of us have all the three gunas. But at any one point, one has come to the surface. So as you traverse the spiritual path, Sattva starts predominating. That means more often than not, you are in the state of Sattva. When you are at the middling level, Rajas predominates. That means Tamas and Sattva are there. But Rajas is the color of the day. And as you're lower down, it becomes Tamas. So basically, all this verse is saying that at any given point, one of these predominates. That's all it's saying. Now, this is a very important concept, though, it seems so simple, right? Everybody just gets it, fine. At any point, a particular guna arises. But it's a very, very important concept. And the reason this concept is so important to us is because this predominance is what determines our nature really. So if you have got, let us say, 80% sattva, 19% rajas, and 1% tamas. Now I'm just making up these figures, okay? Just trying to bring the idea of predominance. If it is something of that sort, then such a person becomes what is known as a Brahmin. Such a person takes to tasks such as teaching, writing, working for causes. This is the normal behavior of such a person. Even when that person is not involved in the spiritual path, nothing to do with the spiritual path, then there will be people like think tanks. In olden times, there was always the king, and the king had an advisor. And who was the advisor? Always the Brahmin. even the Vidushak was the Brahmin, because the Vidushak was the guy who was able to tell the king the bitter truth. But obviously now telling the bitter truth to a king means he'll say off with his head. So therefore he took the garb of the Vidushak, of the clown, because a clown gets to say things that other people cannot say. I mean, in other words, if you quote something in humor, it's easier for people to digest, be easier for people to swallow the bitter truth. So these were the think tanks, the advisors, the teachers, the thinkers, things like that is all comes under the Brahminical category. But if the Rajas was say 80%, Sattva was say 19%, and 1% was Tamas, then such a person will become a Kshatriya. His Kshatriya quality will enable him to go do a lot of stuff, such as go fight wars, handle competition, deal with negative forces. And so if you understand your predominance, you cannot understand what kind of work you should take up. Then what comes? Then suppose, let's say you have what? 47%, I'm doing a very bad calculation now, 47% Rajas, 47% Tamas. Okay, that means basically I'm just trying to get both together, same level. And then 6% Sattva. I'm frightened because Deepraj is in class, so he may find out that I'm doing all these calculations wrong. Basically, when Tamas and Sattva, Tamas and Rajas equalize, then a person becomes a trader. A business person, a trader, an agriculturalist, skilled labor. All of this comes under the Vaishya class. But when Tamas becomes 90%, 9% Rajas, and 1% Sattva, then such a person becomes a Shudra, the lowest class. And the problem of this has got to do with our gunas, not to do with our father's gunas or our ancestors' gunas. This is us, and it is used as a tool of self-analysis. It's used as a tool of understanding what work we should take. But this country has confused that issue so much now that if you say anything about the caste system, you'll be abused. You can be an Ambedkar. Ambedkar is born in so-called lower class, but he wrote our constitution. That means he is a Sattvic person. There are many people who are born in very elite or intellectual families, but their brains and their capacities are very low, and they push themselves down to Shudra class. So it's got nothing to do with birth. It's to do with this predominance. So as long as this predominance exists, there will be 4 categories of humans on this planet. But nothing to do with whether you're Hindu or not. Some people say that, oh, I hate the Hindu caste system. I will be in a Hindu, I'll be a Muslim, a Jain or a Buddhist or a Christian or something I'm going to be because I hate the Hindu caste system. You can leave Hinduism. You cannot leave the caste system because that is for all people at all times. As long as predominance exists, you will be one of those. It's a given. Say, no. I am American, therefore I am not part of your caste system. Arey Baba, you are part of the caste system because this is applicable to all humans at all times. And why is it? Because it's based on each person's individual gunas. And suppose you reach complete sattva, 100% sattva, what will happen?
Self-realize.
Self-realize. Very good. Suppose you reached 100% tamas, what will happen? Yes. Why
Whole
they?
day sleeping. Whole day sleeping.
What will happen if you reach 100% tamas? Self-realized, correct. But I'm waiting for somebody else to say that, Gita. What will happen if you reach 100% rajas? Nobody else wants to say anything. Why are you also worried with answering questions? What happens if you reach 100% rajas? What happened to you? What happens if you reach 100% rajas? Okay, Deepraj, you only say. Nobody is willing to say it. Correct. If you reach 100% sattva, you will become a self-realized soul. If you reach 100% tamas, you will also become a self-realized soul. If you reach 100% rajas, you will also become a self-realized soul. Why?
Is it because no single guna can sustain itself?
Very good. Because by definition, every one of us are all three. So if you're not all three, you can't be a human, obviously, or a being that we understand in this world today. If you manage to attain any one guna, you will become a self-realized soul. Then why don't we tell people to become 100% rajasic or 100% tamasic? Some people will say, okay, then I'll try for 100% tamas. Yes, correct. Because you can't. It's only a theoretical possibility to have 100% tamas or 100% rajas. That's only a theoretical possibility. But it is not a something, excuse me, anyone can execute. How will you execute 100% tamas? You will go to sleep. And then what? You're asleep. So how are you going to reach 100% tamas? So, or rajas. It's only a theoretical possibility, not something that can be executed. So therefore, you have no option but to attempt 100% sattva. But I don't know, some people may be already planning how to achieve 100% tamas. That's the one I like. Sorry, can't be done.
Janki ji, just a question here, if I may ask. Now, in this case, Arjuna was predominantly Rajasic. Therefore, he was a Kshatriya. And Krishna is telling him to go for Sattva. Does it mean that he has to continue to increase his Sattva, and therefore there would be a point when he is no more a Kshatriya?
Yes.
And he stops fighting the war.
Why?
Because he's no
Everyone is
more a
fighting.
Kshatriya.
No, everyone is fighting the war. The Shudras are fighting the war, the Vaishyas are fighting the war, the Kshatriyas are fighting the war, the Brahmins are fighting the war, and the self-realized are also fighting this war. Krishna is also there, right?
True, but he's asking him to sort of move away from being a Kshatriya, not away, but sort of grow out of it and become a Sattvic person and become a Brahmin, so to speak. And which is the fighting, the kind of war he's fighting. He's a general, chief of army. So he will not be the general, he will not be the chief of army as a evolved Sattvic person. Is my understanding right? No.
No. That's the action is not determining whether you're Rajasic or Sattvic or whatever, whether you're Brahminical or not. So this is not the action, it's the attitude. The Kshatriya fights to conquer. The Kshatriya fights with competition. The Kshatriya fights with agitation. He fights because he has no alternative. That his nature impels him. the Brahmin simply does what needs to be done. It's a very matter of fact thing for him. The Kshatriya is all ready for war and he's picked up his weapons and he has a whole different mental, what should I say, different mental perspective. The Brahminical person may also, Dronacharya was also fighting the war.
So therefore, it is better to be a Sattvic warrior than a Kshatriya warrior.
Yeah, but the Sattvic person doesn't necessarily have to fight. The Sattvic person will do what needs to be done. Like take, for instance, Chanakya. He is fighting a war, but with his head.
Yeah, but Chanakya is fighting a war with his head. That's his role. But he also needs a general to fight the war. So there is a role for the general to fight the war. You need an army.
Mhm.
You need both. And so therefore, why do we say that if you are a general, you are a Kshatriya, you could be a Brahmin general also, which is you're in a better position to be a Brahmin
Yes,
general, a
yes,
Sattvic general.
true. But each, okay, we have to distinguish between attitudes and skills,
Hmm.
right? And attitude is what is determined by your guna, not a skill. So let's say there's a Sattvic person who has no skill in archery. Then he will know that this is not the role for me to play.
Correct.
But a Sattvic person may have the skill of archery, in which case it will become the role for him to play. So each one has to determine a Sattvic person will determine who has which skill and will place the pawns accordingly. The Rajasic person says, I'm going to go fight. If there's a person who can do this better than him, he's not concerned because he is going to go fight. So this Rajasic person does not have the mental attitude to say who should be doing this job in the first place. He has only two reactions. Either this is mine and I will hold it, or it is not mine and I will have nothing to do with it. I mean, it's out of his thinking. A Brahmin doesn't function like that. He sees the entire picture and then he moves the pieces as he determines correct. Rightly or wrongly, he could also, right and wrong is of course a matter of situation, but I think the confusion in this question is because skill and attitude, if we segregate it, like let's say a person is a marketing person, so he's marketing oriented, he has that skill, or a finance person has that skill. Now, if he was Brahminical with that skill, he may become a Junjunwala, let us say. Because I don't know, okay, I just make these things up just to show that there's a lot of thinking behind that skill as well.
Yeah, I think I'm getting there. So on the one axis, we have the four castes, which are the skill-based caste.
Attitude-based.
So what I'm saying is that on one axis, you have the caste, which is based on the division of labor, right? Which is, I'm saying it is skill-based, and I think you can just help me understand. Skill-based caste, which is skill-based, and on the other axis, you have the attitude, which is sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So you have the kshatriya skills, but you have an attitude of tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. And let us say Arjuna today is sitting kshatriya with rajasic skills, predominantly rajasic. And Krishna is saying that you move from rajasic to sattvic, but you continue to be a kshatriya. You're a kshatriya, your job is to fight war. That's what you're meant to be. But you fight the war as a sattvic person. So sattvic kshatriya. Can we also look at it from this angle? I'm just trying to understand this. So you are a sattvic kshatriya. You don't have to become a Brahmin. You don't have to become a Chanakya. You continue to be an Arjuna, but be a sattvic Arjuna.
I mean, in spirit, I agree with you, but this particular phraseology lends itself to trouble because we have already defined caste to be a combination of gunas. So you can now take out gunas from the caste. So if you want to put this as a graph, maybe you could put a skill and an attitude. One is a skill, one is an attitude. Now, based on your attitude is your caste, not based on your skill.
Mm.
However, the caveat here is, if you had that guna, you'd probably be doing it your whole life, no? You'll be good at it.
Mm.
How can it be that you are a predominantly Kshatriya, I mean, you are a Kshatriya, predominantly Rajasic, and you have created no skills in that? That would be very unusual because his
Unlikely.
nature is to work.
Unlikely.
Yeah. So he will be good at it in all possibility. In fact, when we do let's say a management seminar, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with these Kshatriyas who are skilled in whatever they are doing, but their attitudes are so bad that their performance is lower than they're capable.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're making the graph, it will probably be skill and attitude.
Skill and attitude. Yeah. Okay, I think a little more to think about. Morning
Tomorrow
morning
morning.
study. Topic for morning study. Thank you.
Janki ji?
Yeah, 1 second. I have questions here. Is a rock self-realized? No, unfortunately not. Deepraj, don't try all these stunts. You say, okay, I'll try to be a rock. No, you can't. No, a rock is not self-realized because it's an inanimate object. So it cannot, excuse me, be self-realized. Because you will have to explain how did the rock take birth if it had no desires. Right? Vedanta wisdom, I assume that's Omkar. If Rajas or Tamas is not sustainable, how is 100% Sattva sustainable? A good question, Omkar, because that's why you have to understand what the line means. When you say it is not sustainable, what are you meaning with that? You're right, 100% Sattva is not sustainable. Why? By definition. Everybody has to have all three. So if somebody has only one, it's not sustainable, even if it is Sattva. But what happens when you become 100% Sattva is that you are a self-realized soul. Now, when we say it is not sustainable, okay, maybe that word may not have been correct. What we mean is the journey towards that is not sustainable. You cannot undertake to become 100% Rajas or 100% Tamas. You can't do it. It's not possible to execute that. But it is possible to execute 100% Sattva. If you do manage to reach it, as the theory says, it cannot sustain by itself. Therefore, you become self-realized. Which theory is common to all three? If you reach any one, it's not sustainable. So it will change form into self-realization. So why are we working on Sattva? Because it's the only thing we can work on to make 100%. The practical possibility of making 100% Sattva exists, but making the other 200% does not exist.
Yes.
So just be clear what the point is. This is why philosophy is supposed to make you a clear thinker, because you begin to differentiate between things. Right? Otherwise, it's all general. We are saying some general thing in our mind, and other people are listening to some general thing in their mind. That's why it's difficult to talk to clear people, because if you are not clear, the conversation will not proceed. So, Ajay Kasotia, become Gunas. Yes, that is just a name for it. That doesn't explain anything. It's just a name for it. Gunatit means beyond the Gunas. Yes, you heard it. It's just a name. But here you understand what is going on. If you reach 100% sattva, it flips. So, right? So what have we done so far? That there is the concept of predominance. Each one of us are predominant in one, and therefore we are part of the four castes. Alternatively, at any given point also we are predominant in one. Like in the morning, between 4 and 6, we are predominant in our sattva. During the daytime, that means when the sun is up, we are predominant in our rajas. And when the sun sets, we are predominant in tamas. Okay, we are predominant means what? That guna is manifesting more. Yeah, that's what it means. So let's say I have got 10% sattva, 80% rajas, and 10% tamas. Let's see. So if I get up between 4 and 6, that 10% sattva will rise. Rise is a pun on the word as well, because if I do get up, it will manifest and it will increase. Both. Then during daylight hours, that means when the sun is up, what did I say? Rajas?
80%.
80%. Okay, so that 80% rajas will come to the surface. And because I'm there, I will increase it. And then tamas, that 10% which is still left, if I stay up late at night, my 10% will manifest and increase. Right? So,
Ankiji, on this point, would 80% Rajas even make a person get up at 4 o'clock?
yeah, that's also true. The rajas won't make you, but your self-effort can make yourself. You can't get up, but you can put
Oh,
an effort.
I thought Rajasic person will be sleeping at 4 a.m.
He would, but if we take it as a rule, then none of us will ever wake up fully. So we have to exert against that pressure, right? This is what we are, and then we have to make ourselves into something. So we exert pressure for that. Otherwise, whatever my gunas are, I'm staying there. So then why am I in the spiritual path? I just stay where I am. I exert against these gunas.
Yeah, I mean, just doubt came because of these 80% permutation. If that's how the predominance is, then it'll be difficult, right? I mean, the self-effort.
Yeah, self-effort is difficult at all stages, no matter what your predominance is. Even if you're 99%, sattva, self-effort is still difficult. Self-effort is always difficult. Because self-effort means you are putting in something it's always difficult when you are putting it in to go against the stream of your vasanas. If you are, if you're let's say you're a stubborn person or a rigid person, then you are putting in your self-effort to go with your vasanas. That's always easy. If you're going to do something in the opposite direction, then that will always be. Even in the seat of meditation, that will still be there. That is a given.
Okay, thank you.
Deep brush. The reason why we associate certain professions with castes is just from empirical observations and not because it is necessarily so. Is that correct? Not from empirical observation so much as it's conceptual. That if you had this much rajas, this is what you will tend towards. Not merely empirical. It is a understanding that this is the kind of stuff you would do. Why is that so? Why is it so? Because if you are Rajasic, that means you will be propelled to do stuff, right? You have so many desires. You are going to be propelled into action. You in the state of sattva, your desires are relatively low, so your intellect can work. When you wish to do something, you have an automatic filtration. It's not like you're even putting in effort to filter. That's an automatic filtration. Yeah, this is that same graph of attitude and skill. A rajasic scientist will be, the scientist part is his sattvic nature, and the rajasic part will make him competitive and all of that. Milind, you also had a question.
Janki ji,
One
suppose,
second, Deepraj still has I have trouble understanding this. Okay, you use Arun's chart of attitude versus skill. Now, if your attitude, think about it like this, okay? Here is a tamasic person. The tamasic person, what is his main interest in life is that he shouldn't do something. That is his main interest. Now he will, if he has some desires, whatever desires, few desires also if he has, he wants those objects. So he has to get them. Now, if he has to do something, let's say he wants a iPhone. There's a tamasic person. What will he do? First, he will see whether he can steal it from anyone. Steal it in the sense, in his mind, he's not stealing it. Then वहाँ पड़ा था मैंने ले लिया. He doesn't call it stealing and all. It's too big. There's no thinking. It's like, oh, I wanted a cell phone. Yeah, मैंने एक देखा मैंने ले लिया. Yeah, so it's simple-minded like that. Okay, now there was no cell phone lying around. Then now you will have to put in some work. So then maybe he sees somebody in somebody's hand, fatak, he takes it and he runs. It is his tamasic element that is making him do these things. No? He wants something, but they want to put in the effort to go to work, earn, get a salary, then I will buy all this. Then directly leta hu, na? So you see, that's how his mental format comes around. Now the thing is, he has rajas and he has sattva as well. He's not just tamasic. So he will apply his rajas and his sattva to the extent it exists to do his nefarious activities. So let's take a bank robber. You know those heists and all which they really plan. You can see that there's a planner in that, a guy who plans it. And then there are these guys who execute it. The guys who execute it, they don't have too much brains. But the guy who plans it sometimes doesn't execute. So now what are you going to put him under? Tamas or rajas or sattva? The thing is, it's a combination. Yes, madam.
Janki ji, just now you said 100% of any guna is not sustainable, right? Suppose 99% or 98% rajas is there, and you're saying he is a self-realized, it is difficult to digest.
He is 98% rajas and self-realized?
100% rajas is self-realized, no? Theoretically.
Correct.
But it is not possible practically.
Correct. Yes.
Suppose 98% rajas is there. Is possible?
That is possible, but he won't be realized. He'll be in ICU, I think. It's too much, no? How will he manage all that agitation?
But this 100% rajas is self-realized is difficult to digest.
By definition.
Sorry, 100% rajas, yeah.
Yeah.
Is self-realized is difficult to digest.
By definition. What does our definition say? Every human being is made up of 3 gunas. Right?
Yes.
That's where we start. Correct. So it is not possible to have a human being with only 1 guna.
Yes.
By definition, these things are.
Okay, I think. And secondly, did Arjuna was self-realized?
Of course not.
Not, no?
No question of it. We wouldn't, if he had been self-realized, we wouldn't have got Bhagavad Gita.
Sorry, what he said?
If he had been self-realized, we wouldn't have got a Bhagavad Gita.
No, after listening, he become self-realized? No.
No way. I
No
wish
way.
it was that simple.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
Janki,
thank you.
this is an interesting one. 100% tamasic, theoretically not possible, right? And that's what we are saying. But why I'm still struggling, why are we saying is self-realized? Because would he not be born as an animal or something else if he's 100% tamasic in the next life, and rather being a self-realized person, even theoretically speaking?
Theoretically, you begin on the assumption, the whole discussion begins that every human being is made of three gunas.
On that
By
basis.
definition. So you cannot have a human being or being without the three gunas.
Yeah, so yeah, the word self-realized is something which is creating a bit of a problem. That if it is 100% tamasic, that means why are we saying self-realized? The person doesn't exist.
Yeah. Doesn't exist means it's a theoretical possibility.
Theoretical.
We said a human being or a being has three gunas,
Correct.
right? By definition. So every thought that he has will be one of these three. Now let us say that theoretical possibility, he has one guna. What will happen to him? He'll become self-realized.
Yeah, this
Because
is difficult to
he'll be
understand.
beyond,
He
he'll
doesn't
be beyond
exist.
the gunas.
Yes, he doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't
Why are we
exist.
saying he's self-realized? He doesn't exist. That's a
But
theoretical.
correct.
That's where because self-realized by our definition, we are saying that trans-sattva is where you get to self-realization.
Trans-gunas. The term is trans-gunas.
Not trans-sattva.
Trans-sattva, trans-rajas, trans-tamas is the same thing.
So trans-tamas is also self-realized.
If you don't have tamas, you have 100% tamas. Same thing. By definition, all this is. Who is a self-realized person? A person who's gone beyond the gunas. Who is a being? One who has the three gunas. Who is a self-realized person? One who's gone beyond the gunas.
Beyond gunas would mean beyond any of the gunas, by definition.
By definition.
Not beyond sattva. Okay.
Janki ji, it is like if you score
It's only
100% mark, you are
discussion, Baba. Don't take it so seriously.
Janki ji.
Yeah.
Because that self-realized one is becoming very tempting. So I say there's a shortcut available somewhere here. So why go on?
That is why I'm telling you from the beginning, don't worry about this. Ain't happening. Yes, Milan.
Janki, it is like if you got 100% mark, you are pass, right? If you are 0% mark, then also you are pass. It is like that.
No, it is like water is made up of H2O. Whether you
Okay.
take out the H or you take out the O2, there's no water. A human being is made up of three gunas. If you remove any one of them or two of them or whatever you do that doesn't involve the being having three gunas, no longer a being. So what are you left with? The self-realized soul. This combination is what creates the being. So you breaking the combination, then it won't be the being.
Okay, I have to think. Thank you.
Please do. Don't take this so seriously. All we are doing is saying that there are all three gunas, and in each one, something is going to predominate. Bharat is driving others to ICU. Yes, he and they will go together. Don't worry. Let's hope he's not the ambulance driver. Yes, let's hope so. Deep Raj, can we call the state of deep sleep a state of complete tamas? Not really, because if it was such complete tamas, how would you know that you were in deep sleep? Deep sleep could become a theoretical assumption, not a experience. If you have experience, that means something is there, right? So it cannot be 100% tamas, complete tamas. Because anybody can come back and say, I've had sound sleep, I had deep sleep. How do you know this? Okay, the term self-realized is confusing. Yes, Mona, self-realization is always a confusing thing. But for some reason, we are now going to the gunas and making that confused. So forget it about the 100%. It's just theoretical. Just forget it. Don't need to worry about it. Anupama. A human being who has been diagnosed as mentally deranged would come under ailments and sickness. Nothing to do with the gunas. Mentally deranged or otherwise, I mean, all mental ailments is a form of illness. It's like getting tuberculosis or anything else. So you don't categorize that into the you categorize the non-ill thing. You don't categorize the ill thing. I mean, in philosophy, unless you're in medical science, in which case you will start categorizing the aberration. Okay, Anupama. Are you new, Anupama? Do I know you?
Janki, this concept of caste, no, which the sociological concepts based on that it is based on division of labor, that is not the way Vedanta understands it, right?
That is not the way Gita talks of it.
Okay.
Because understanding is subjective. What is written is written. So we will come to it. He's written about it. Because over here, it is not, I mean, interpretation, of course, plays a large part, but you can read his words and then decide what it means. This is like I just said it because we happen to be on this issue of predominance, but in chapter 18, he spelled it out. He has very, very clearly said it. So this is what he has said.
So sociologically, that mobility of castes or across castes based on certain acquisition of skills based on the kind of labor or the activities which are being done. That's not the understanding. It is the gunas have to be, I mean,
yeah, the mobility was originally there. You can see that, right? Dronacharya was a teacher of arms. Mobility is there. There's mobility between the genders also. So where is the question of mobility not being there among the castes?
so somewhere
you have like what's his name? Vishwamitra, whose name I have now forgotten. Vishwamitra, anyone remembers what was Vishwamitra's name? Whatever his name was. Chalo. He was a king, right? Then he got into competition with Vashishta. I don't know if you know the story. Big competition. And so he went and the Puranas are full of so many stories that if you start a story, sometimes you have to stop and think, where do I start this story from? Okay, so here's this brief version. The king Vishwamitra, Kaushika, thank you very much. Kaushika was the king. He went to Vashishta's ashram with his army, full army, after some conquest or something. And Vashishta said, please come and sit down and have a meal. So he said very politely, no, thank you. I'm with my army, so obviously I will not have, right? The whole army is also starving just as much as he is. So he refused the meal, to which Vashishta insisted, no, no, you will sit and your army will sit as well. So Brahmins never have any money. King has gone with his entourage, with his army. So he was just being polite and trying to tell him, no, thank you, trying to not put Vashishta in a difficult position. Where is this poor Brahmin supposed to feed an army from? But he was shocked to feed, but he insisted. So now, the king has to listen to the Brahmin. So he shut up and he sat down. But they received a feast, not just food, they received a feast. And he was astounded. So he asked the sage, how is this possible? So he said, I have with me the cow Kamadhenu. So, and she provided the feast. To which Vashishta, she's a Kshatriya guy, right? So he says, a cow such as this should be with the king, not with the poor sage. What is the sage do with this Kamadhenu? I should be having. So he said to the, I'll pay you any amount, give me Kamadhenu. Well, I can't give it, I can't sell her. She's like a daughter to me. I can't sell her. So then, of course, our king, Kaushika, got very, very upset. And then the whole battles have started between. He tried to kill Vashishta. I mean, a whole battle. Okay, lots and lots of stuff. And then he got madder and madder because there was nothing he could do to win over Vashishta. Okay, competition. So he went into meditation. He said, so how did you have Brahmadanda? I will do meditation and get Brahmadanda. So basically, this then story is of how he elevates himself. He becomes Raja Rishi, then lots of stories, then he becomes Brahmacha Rishi, and that's how he eventually becomes among the Sapta Rishi. So long story short is, did he not change his caste through self-effort? So social mobility was there in multiple examples. Social mobility was there. Gunas basis was understood. You can understand that from the fact that he mentions it. He's not explaining it. Now, there's a whole explanation of it. He just mentioned, he said, this is a Swabhavajam. You understand Swabhavajam, right? Swabhav means what? Gunas. Jam means birth. Swabhavajam. He mentions it and he goes on. He mentions it 2-3 times. But he's not explained anything. So, obviously, Arjuna understood what he was saying. So there was social mobility, there was this understanding, everything was there earlier.
Yeah. Somewhere they've got these castes have become like ossified and that these are rigid structures.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's it. Then we will do with what is it? Yes, Anupama, I'm quite new. Okay. Sometime put on your video, Anupama, so that I can put a face to the name. Okay, carry on. Welcome to the class. Okay, where are you from, Anupama? I can't hear you. I think you're muted. You're muted.
I've joined in from Navi Mumbai.
Okay.
But otherwise I'm from Kerala.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Momita, so the correct interpretation of caste system is that it is psychological and not a social construct. I don't know whether it is a correct interpretation or not, but that's what the Gita says. I don't know whether it's an interpretation. You can read the text yourself and find out. It is part of our social construct. Why not? We have created the society based on Vedantic knowledge. But that's what the Gita says. Open it and read it yourself. But
No, Janki, what I mean is that is it the interpretation that we are giving here is that it is based on your guna. So guna is a psychological thing, right? The attitude is psychological. It is not like just now Kalyan was saying that it is not a division of labor. It should not be interpreted as a division of labor. So that is division of labor is a social construct.
Yeah, I don't know whether we'd call it psychological because we include mind and intellect, but psychology doesn't include mind and intellect and all its complications. So we say, if you want, it is a classification of the gunas would be the right way of saying it, or a classification of mental temperaments. That would be a correct way of saying it.
But mental temperament is psychology, right?
Not in Vedanta. You're using the word psychology, which is a Western construct. So I will persist in mental temperaments because
In any case, it is not social. That it is not a division of labor. It is not the actions that you do.
no, yes, correct.
Okay.
Very important to use the right phraseology. I may be a purist, but I feel keep to the right phraseology because as the phraseology changes, the meanings also change. So, rightly or wrongly, I have taken on the stance of being a purist or to say it correctly. So, okay, but of course, yeah, as long as you understand the idea. So, yes, so there's a Sangeeta, are you